Blessings and welcome to today's Law Enforcement Daily Devotional. Uh, tell you up front, I'm redoing this because it just keeps going long, too long. And the last time I just did this, I ran over 9 minutes. So I'm going to skip some of the stuff that I had planned on talking about in our read today so I can get to something I think is very important. Our first read was John chapter 5, and man, there's a lot of great stuff in chapter 5, especially about Jesus and the crippled guy trying to get into the pool at Bethesda, and that whole the Spirit stirring the water. I'll admit I don't completely understand all that, but as John writes it, he writes it from the perspective of it's true. It's not some rumor. It's not some urban myth that this has actually people believe this has actually happened, that they've gone into the water when the angel stirs the water and they come out healed. So really neat story, and I hope you read it. But I want to move on. Jesus is, he goes into the synagogue, and he gets questioned about why he's healing people on the Sabbath and the things that he's doing on the Sabbath. And Jesus tells them that he is Lord of the Sabbath. And if this is true, and I hope we all believe it is, that he's not breaking the commandments on the Sabbath. He's the Lord of the Sabbath. So he can do what he needs to or wants to do on the Sabbath. And he even goes so far to say, look, if you have an animal that falls into a well on the Sabbath, will you not pick that animal out and save it? How much more important is the life of a human being than the life of an animal? And so he cures this guy inside the temple on a Sabbath, and they all get mad at him. And Jesus asks them a question, basically saying, look, this question that Jesus asked is actually in Mark, and that was part of our read today, but it's a mirror story that we see in Matthew. But in Mark 3:4, we see Jesus ask the Pharisees. Remember, now think of this. He's asking the Pharisees this question because he has healed a man, and they're upset with him because he did it on the Sabbath. So he asks them this question. Is it lawful to do good or to do harm on the Sabbath? To save a life or to kill? Now you would think that would be a rhetorical question. What drives me crazy is the Pharisees get all mad at him and they go outside, and what do? They actually talk about killing Jesus. They made their choice. Instead of this being a rhetorical question that is ridiculous, they actually answer this question in a way that nobody sees coming. Jesus says to save a life or to kill, and they go outside and plot to kill him. It's unbelievable. But before this, Jesus is telling this crowd that he desires followers and believers who display compassion, not legalism. I think that is very important for us in law enforcement, because we can be very legalistic. We can get to where we are numb to feeling any feelings or thoughts of having thoughts of compassion on the job. Everybody gets a ticket. Everybody goes to jail. Jesus is saying, I want you to have compassion. I don't just want you to be legalistic. And if the law says they can go to jail just because it says so, man, don't just do it because the law says so. Let each situation or call or incident stand on its own merits. And if someone does not need to go to jail, have compassion on them. I wish I had really taken this verse to heart when I was younger in my law enforcement career. And then in chapter 12, verse 18 of Matthew, Jesus ends with this reading, or there's this prophecy, of this fulfillment of prophecy. And it basically says, he will bring justice to the Gentiles. Now, this he's obviously going to be Jesus, and it's talking about the Christianity that has not even really been born yet, because Even though Jesus is in the world, Christianity will not be born until Christ dies, is resurrected, and the Holy Spirit comes into the world. Then Christianity begins. But he's giving a glimpse into this. If you were a Jew at the time, you didn't get any religious justice, as it would be, from God because you weren't a Jew. That's how the world thought. I think God has always had compassion on every one of his creatures. But he says here that he will bring justice to the Gentiles. Now, in today's world, we're seeking justice all around us because there's crime, there's rebellion, there's hatred. All those things we see going on all around us. That's not the problem. The problem of the world is sin. The world has a sin problem. Yes, anger and crime and rebellion all stem from sin. Their root is sin, but it's all sin. We don't need to be saved. Justice for the Gentiles does not come through a criminal justice system or law enforcement or government, because it's not a crime problem or a rebellion problem. It's a sin problem. Therefore, to kill the true root of the problem, it has to be taken care of by God. In verse 12, verse 20, it tells us that he will lead justice to victory. He will be victorious. All the problems that we're having in the world today, law enforcement can't solve them. Government can't make enough rules to get us out of this problem of rebellion. Only Jesus is going to be able to lead justice to victory and get us out of this problem. So we need to be compassionate, and we need to trust in him. So tomorrow we're going to be in Matthew chapter 5, Mark chapter 3, verse 13 through 19, and Luke chapter 6, verses 12 through 36. I hope you're able to read ahead, and till then, be safe.